What's up, everybody? Today we're talking to Nikki Barua, a serial entrepreneur, keynote speaker, and best-selling author. She's teaching us that you don't need talent, intelligence, or luck to build an extraordinary life, but you just need a decision. She teaches us her 48-hour rule, how to escape the victim mindset, and how to reinvent yourself in a world that's constantly changing. We learned a lot. So we had a great conversation with her. Great vibes overall. So I hope you guys have the same and see you in the pod.
Yeah, and the thing is people feel like you have to be someone extraordinary, like extraordinary IQ or talent or this and that. What I found is the moment you get locked into a great sense of purpose, you change. Because that's what fuels your drive, your focus, your, talents. Everything gets locked in. And then you're not trying. It becomes automatic. But like figuring out an authentic purpose that you really feel connected to, that's not an easy thing
Yeah.
to arrive at. That's why like the clarity part is so important. But once you do, your life changes. And I've seen it in myself. I would say I could not be more ordinary, and yet I've had extraordinary successes and extraordinary outcomes just because I found something bigger than myself.
So let's start with what was the first one that you got locked into and where you had an extraordinary outcome where you're like, wow, I'm an ordinary person, but with this mission, I'm getting extremely good results because I am locked in.
Um, it was in 2008. I lived in San Francisco at the time, and I experienced a horrible tragedy. My partner committed suicide in our
Oh, wow.
home, and
My condolences.
and it was just something I never saw coming. I did not see the signs. It was just sort of like just a horrific personal experience to go through and to survive the suicide. And then all the mess that happened after that. There was a lot of financial loss because this was also during the Wall Street crash. So we had basically lost everything during that time. So I basically like hit rock bottom emotionally, financially, in terms of confidence and everything. In fact, if rock bottom had a basement, I had like permanent residency there. It was that bad. And during that time, like I felt like there was a portion of that time that I spent wallowing in self pity, like why me? Why is this happening to me? I did everything right. I followed the rules. I built my career. As an immigrant to America, I started from nothing and I built up, my financial independence, and now I've lost it all. So all of those things, like I was just wallowing in self pity for a while, and then one fine day, I just woke up and I was like, I need to make a choice. Like either today is going to be just like yesterday and the day before, and I keep being stuck in that cycle, or I'm going to choose happiness and I'm going to choose to apply myself in something that is not about me and it's about helping someone else. And the most immediate thing that came to mind was, you know, people give up on themselves when they don't feel like life is worth living, that there's nothing to strive for, right? Not everyone commits suicide, but even people that are operating on autopilot, just going from like their boring jobs that they hate and their boring lives that they have not living in passion. You get stuck because you never found the thing that makes you come alive. And when you find that thing, it unlocks your limitless potential. And that idea just kind of took root during that time, because as much as I was thinking, like, if I could solve that, like, if I could figure out what is it that helps people unlock their potential, then not only would that bring people, the zest for life and to do extraordinary things, but perhaps it might also save some lives of people that don't give up on themselves. And I just got obsessed with that idea. And I'm still obsessed with that idea, by the way. It's just taken different
Love
shapes
it.
and forms
Awesome.
over time. But from that point, like I walked away from my corporate career, built up my own business, grew and scaled that pretty big, wrote a book, became an global keynote speaker, have been on various boards, built up multiple companies. Like all of those things came from that one morning making that decision that either I can be stuck and miserable with self-pity, or I can choose a purpose bigger than myself. That was it.
I love it. That reminds me a lot of what Mel Robbins
Oh, I
also
was going to
says in
say
her
that.
book. Like so basically when the book, I think it's called the 5 second rule. And she mentioned
Yeah.
the same thing. She was like in like depressive. Her husband like was, had like a food chain and like it was going bad, the restaurant chain. And then she's like always just like depressed. And one morning she was literally imagining the launch of the NASA, of like a launch of a
Rocket.
ship, a spaceship, and she's like counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and just
Yeah.
getting up in the middle of a rainy day in Boston. And I just like reminded me of your story. And then just like it's like, yes, you always have two choices. And one is just like keep just pitting yourself or just actually
Mhm.
start like digging your way out of that hole. Which I thought was like very, very
I
fascinating.
also think that's super, that what you kind of alluded to is that people live, but they're not alive, or they're alive, but they don't
Mhm.
live.
Yeah.
It's like, I've seen that so many times. Like, we have some friends, they're on autopilot. They're like, like the inside is dead. They're just like, oh, I'm doing my 9 to 5. Like, you can't see the sparkle in their eyes.
Yeah.
They're like, they just talk to them and you're like, man, is it just me? Is there a dementor here? Like, someone is sucking my energy out. Like, they're like dead inside. And it's like, I agree with you so much. It resonates. I was like, yeah, 100%. Like,
There's
people
something
need to learn
so
this.
powerful about living life with passion. I mean, that's the whole point of life, isn't it? Otherwise, how is it any different from being dead? You're just, you're dead inside. You just don't know it. And I truly believe in that idea that your life can change in an instant, just like Mel Robbins says. And one of my favorite Tony Robbins quote is,
Oh,
your destiny is shaped in the moments of your decision. And it could not be truer because so many people think, oh, change takes a lot of time, right? It's going to take me years to overcome past trauma and past setbacks and all of these things. Yes and no. The actual transformation might take time, but your decision can be instant. And it was for me. It was literally instantly. As soon as I got out of bed, my feet touched the floor. I'd made that decision and I never looked back. And so, what that did for me is also gave me evidence of how this framework or formula works, right? Because if I could do it once and it worked out so well, now anytime I encounter setbacks, or encounter failures and losses, it's just that same idea. It's like, okay, I'm going to give myself 48 hours to feel miserable. I'm going to give myself some space. Because you also don't want to like deny the reality of pain, right? And ignore it because that festers badly. So I give myself a fixed amount of time. Like, okay, I'm allowed to be miserable and like cry over this for 48 hours. When that's done, that's it. We're moving on to the next, thing. And each event I now see as a catalyst for reinvention. In what way is this event, whether good or bad, going to become a catalyst for the next version of me to emerge? I
is this
see
just
it as
always
like
catastrophic?
data points.
Are these catastrophic events, like big events, or are you talking about smaller events? Like, what is it? What's the definition for you for an event?
Well, if it is something that I'm stuck with, right? If it lingers,
Okay.
if it's an everyday thing that I'm not even pondering about, that's not a big deal. But if it's something I start ruminating about, I'm stuck in that cycle, right? Like that feeling when something
Oh,
happens and the moment is gone, but your brain is just stuck in that moment and you can't get unstuck. To me, it's
yeah.
like a sort of spark that says, okay, I need to use this as fodder for the next version of me to emerge. Whether it is a positive thing or a negative thing, how can I use this as a catalyst for reinvention? And sometimes it doesn't have to be just like negative, catastrophic things. It can also be like a huge success. And I remember thinking like experiencing a huge success and getting like giddy about it, right? Like where you're like, oh, look at me. I'm like, you get like in that moment where you're like so proud of yourself because the thing you achieved was such a fantasy once upon a time in your life. You never thought it would come true. And yet now it is your reality, right? So in that moment, you're kind of giddy with joy and excitement and all of that. But even for that, I just give it 48 hours because what I don't want is that success to turn into pride and ego and arrogance and entitlement that then becomes a negative pattern It takes away your humility. It takes away your ability to be curious and keep learning and to respect and be kind to everybody. So I give myself 48 hours even for the celebration, just like I give myself 48 hours to like be miserable. But then it's like, okay, well, what is the reinvention that comes out of that? Well, now my dreams need to be even bigger. Now I need to, take more risks. Maybe I got to the stage by a certain level of risk. Now I need to like make this, normalize this, and make this the new floor. What used to be a ceiling now becomes the floor, and I get to the next stage.
I have, first of all, I agree. I love the 48-hour rule. That's like, should be a title of the podcast, 48-hour rule. The other thing that I found very interesting, because you said you don't want to go into negative patterns, but now talking about positive patterns, because we're talking about first an event can be a spark, but how can you make this spark into like a fire that burns for a long period of time? For example, creation of habits in this case. Like, for example, getting out of bed, deciding, okay, now I'm not looking backward anymore and I'm moving forward. Did you keep yourself not motivated, but what were your frames that you built to keep pushing?
Baby steps. That's what I've found, at least what works for me. Like I've never been someone who like my decisions could be massive, but my actions are always tiny little steps that compound over time. I like that's personally what has worked for me. I always admire people that take one giant leap of action and can sustain that. I'm not built that way. So for me, it's like every day one tiny little change. So if it is like I built a meditation practice literally 1 minute at a time because my mind was like having 150 television channels going at the same time. I was just not calm enough to even, I thought meditation was a joke. And I was like, no way that's ever going to work for me. But the more I went through chaotic periods where I found myself incredibly frazzled by external circumstances, that I was suddenly turning into a victim that's constantly reacting to external stimuli. And I was like, what I need is inner stillness. And I started researching it like a scientist, like, how do I do this? And all roads led to meditation. I was like, damn it. This is the thing I was trying to
No.
avoid. And I was like, surely there's got to be some other like better formula for figuring this out.
It's
But no, it
boo.
was meditation. And so finally I was like, okay, well, if that is the answer, I'm going to have to figure out how to do this. And I just started off with like a 1 minute timer and just building upon that. And now my ability to switch into that state, into that meditative state. And most importantly, it's not about the meditation practice. It's what it's done to my cognitive abilities to be completely immune to things that happen externally, good or bad, like, that having that even keeled temperament. It has actually made me way better as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a public figure, any of those things. Like it's built immunity in ways I never imagined. But it's also taken 10 years of doing this, right? So to answer your question, Lucas, like it wasn't like, oh, one fine day I decided meditation and a week later I was like a Swami in the Himalayas. Like that didn't happen for me. It took a lot of very, but almost everything I've ever mastered or built as a habit in my life has been the result of tiny baby steps done consistently over long periods of time and letting the compounding do its job. That's it. I went from being, absolutely like uh, horrible on stage, like, struggled with stage fright and had, I'm an introvert, massive social anxiety, all kinds of things where I basically like had an episode where I froze on stage and everybody laughed and like, so some traumatic events that were like, oh, I'm never going on stage again. And this was when I was a kid in high school. But I made a decision that one fine day I'm going to be a highly paid public speaker and travel the world for it. Well, that was probably in like 1988 is when that episode happened. And now, like all these
Couple years
years
later.
later, yeah. So it's been a lot of practice. And, I decided to just change myself, change my identity, build the skill. But it didn't happen by just affirmations in front of a mirror. It happened with a lot of practice consistently over long periods of time.
A few things. All right. One thing, but I have a few things. The constant chase, I want to go back to that later with the goalpost that you mentioned with the risk. And then the second one is with different moods. Have you ever noticed that sometimes, I mean, everyone has moods that go up and down, but I've realized in myself, I did a little bit of meditation like you, like a minute, and I started and I really, really enjoyed it. In the morning, I do positive affirmations, like listening at meditative state. And I realized that sometimes, even though um, my mood is not the best, for example, you have a low energy day, that this can be used to still be productive. How's your meditation helped you with this kind of stuff? Because it doesn't matter. We are super high energy people, Lucas and I, but sometimes you still, something wasn't right. You have trouble with the relationship, or I don't know, the business, something fell through, and you just have a low energy. But somehow, sometimes I'm able, not mastered it yet. I'm not there yet. I'm able to use it to do some low effort tasks, but that I can just power through this way, just using the
Mhm.
mood.
Yeah, I mean, you answered it because what I've learned is to not fight against your profile. Like in every possible way, as human beings, we're almost designed to constantly find fault with ourselves, right? Like we our self-criticism, our self-judgment, our self-talk is like cruel for almost everybody. Even the most successful people I've known, if you listen to their
Especially
self-talk,
them.
yeah. And maybe it becomes the driver, right? Because you hate yourself so much that you get driven to achieve. But the point is, when you stop fighting how you're designed or how you're feeling in a certain moment and you get back in alignment with that, it's amazing where it can take you. And so for me, it's being fully mindful and present to whatever that is. So there's absolutely, I'm super high energy, but there's absolutely days where I just feel kind of listless, like for no particular reason, like not that something bad has happened, but I'm just kind of feeling fatigued or, just feeling kind of uninspired. And, it feels like the kind of day where I just want to curl up in bed with a book and not do work. And I've learned to just tune into that and stop fighting it. Like, I'm not going to be in that state and do something that doesn't make sense. I've learned to just go with that flow. But what I will not do is let that persist for an unhealthy period of time. That's where the 48-hour comes in. Like, if that
Exactly. That
goes
was my
on,
question.
it turns into an excuse, right? It goes from listening to your body and listening to your biology of whatever you need in that moment and suddenly turns into a pattern that then the pattern dominates you. So as long as you like kind of break through that, and other things comes out, like there, in fact, just last week, I had one of those days where in the middle of the week, it's like, I just don't feel like working today. Like, I don't know what it is. I'm just in a different state. And I had my assistant cancel all my meetings for the day. And I just shut off, like digital detox, like I disconnected. And I sat and like sketched in my notebook. Like I doodled and I sketched. And it was weird because it was like a somatic experience of sorts, right? Like when you're sketching and like doing something physically like that. I cooked, I sketched, I sat out in the sun, and I had this idea like that just came to mind. And I was like, wow, how did I not think about that? And I wasn't even trying to solve a problem. It was just as I was doing this like idea came to mind. The very next day, I like pitched that idea and literally by Friday it closed a massive opportunity that came out of
That's awesome.
nowhere.
Congratulations.
That
Yeah.
reminds me of Albert Einstein, that what he was doing that day. He said that it was great he worked in the post office, so that he just the mundane tasks that just kept his well, he was just doing something mundane, but his brain was thinking
Mhm.
passively on the real
Yeah.
problems. It's like something similar like that. You're like, you can't force it. Sometimes your brain is just doing the calculation, something in
Yeah.
the background, or you even getting inspired, and then
Yeah.
fascinating how it
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. It is.
Really, really interesting. Okay, I want to get back to now. You mentioned earlier, after the 48 hours, you had a success, you achieved something, and then you said you need to do more risk. You want to achieve something more. How do you manage then so it doesn't feel like you're constantly chasing something that you are or I need to get better, I need to get more. You know, there's people, you already mentioned that some people that are super successful, they are still not happy because they have the constant feeling of they need to chase, it needs to be bigger, I need to be the richest, I need to be the best, whatever. How do you
Mhm.
manage to keep improving without having to always moving the goalpost?
There's a very simple frame for how to think about that. As long as your drive is about something selfish and self-serving, you'll always feel inadequate. You'll lose sight of, the beauty of enough because you're just chasing for more. And you'll never get more, right? Because the goalpost keeps moving all the time. But when the drive comes from a place of service and contribution, of wanting to apply your time and your talent and your energy, and you're bringing people along for a meaningful problem that you're personally passionate about, it completely changes, because then it's a mission worth fighting for. Then you're not doing it because of some personal inadequacy or some personal greed or need or whatever that is. You're doing it because it's a mission and a movement that you're leading. And then it's not just about you, you just bring other people along, and it's like the rising tides lift all boats. The fulfillment is in the journey, not the destination. Whereas when it's about your personal greed or personal need, it's all about the destination, because you feel like I'll be happy when I get rich, or I'll be happy when when this business is successful. I'll be happy when I meet the perfect soulmate. And you keep chasing it, and doing that in the journey, you're just miserable because you're inadequate. And then you get to that destination and you still feel not enough, because that's the feeling you've carried through. But when it's about a mission, then you learn how much joy there is in the journey, and it completely changes your view of the destination.
That reminds me of Tony Robbins with his plan to feed, I don't know how many billion people or
Yeah,
how,
yeah.
a billion meals. So it's like, especially when you're explaining to me right now, it's like, that makes totally sense because Tony Robbins seems super happy and also like figured it out. And then just like for himself, he's like, yes, I want to feed this many people. Now my next goal, like he moved the goalpost further, right? He's just like, I want to feed
100
a
billion, I think.
100
Yeah,
billion?
yeah.
100 billion
Yeah,
meals, I
People
100
think it's
billion,
start
like
meals.
experiencing
something
it year after year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
exactly year after year. And it's just like, yes, but he's not doing it for himself. He's not doing it for monetary purposes. He's just like, it's the goal. He wants to like help other people. And that makes a huge difference. And that's why it just also helps him push forward, which
Well,
I
when
really
your
like.
self-worth and your sense of joy and fulfillment are not tied to an outcome, right? You're doing it because you love the process, versus thinking, well, if this fails, then I'm a failure. Or if this succeeds, then look at me, I'm a badass, right? Like when your self worth is not tied to that, it liberates you from the chasing, and it makes all about the becoming. It's who you become in that process, that is the gift in itself.
I feel like Lucas and I were super lucky with this because we truly enjoy the chase and we're enjoying the process. We're working with someone that we love and we're doing that cool stuff. We're building cool projects on the business side and also this podcast because we love
Mhm.
connecting with people. It just gets us
Yeah.
excited and we're super curious and just like want to know everything. So it's just like, it's just true. Yes, financially
Yeah.
we're not there yet, but we it's just the journey and the little things that we can appreciate and just like this conversation right now. I'm
Yeah.
truly enjoying it. You can see how
Yeah.
smiley I am. It's just like it is cool. I love this. And like this comes back again. We hope that with these conversations with you, for example, that we can help also our audience and more people to
Mhm.
find this truly, I don't know, their mission in their life or something that they
Yeah.
truly enjoy.
We often lose sight of how many blessings we already have. So much for us to be grateful for every single day. Something as basic as just health. Like, you are alive. You woke up, you're healthy, you're not in a hospital, you're not dying. Like, my God, what a blessing. Because imagine, someday, imagine being in that state and you would look back to an ordinary Monday afternoon and think, man, I wish I was like that healthy. I wish I had that energy and youth, right? Like we forget all those things because we're so fixated on a very specific outcome. But if you ask yourself, like if you had $10 million today, 100 million, pick your number, whatever number floats your boat, right? Pick that number and say, if you had that, ignore the money now and say, what parts of your life would you radically change? And if the answer is not a whole heck of a lot, actually, I love my family. Like, I love the work I'm doing. I love my lifestyle. I love my friends. I love the city I'm living in. You know, if 80% of it is kind of the same, maybe more elevated, more grand, whatever, but generally your decisions would roughly be the same, then you're living an amazing life already, right? And taking stock of it that way is really helpful because so often we think like it's only when we get to a destination that everything will feel better and we lose sight of like all the things that we have. Like when I look at my life right now, my gosh, I could not be luckier. Like every damn day I feel so lucky because I'm living my dream life. I could not have a better marriage, more connection with my close friends and family. I just have an incredible lifestyle. I'm meeting and learning and growing every single day. Like I'm alive in the best possible way. I can't even think of what would change. Maybe I would have more assets. Like if I had higher net worth, okay, so I own more things, but like I honestly can't imagine what more I'd wish for.
I think that's a very good point. For example, for us, we go always during the day to the gym, and afterwards we always like walk at the beach and just say how great it is. Just like seeing the beach, the sun. It's not as cold. It's like very, very nice. Just like appreciating it, but saying it out loud so you hear it again, not
Yes.
only like the self talk. And that helps a lot because I just like, man, I mean, I work with my twin. What else can I want? Like I can go during the day to the gym. I'm healthy. The sun is out. It feels nice. Even in rainy days, I'm just like I'm literally saying, man, this is a perfect
Rain
day.
smells nice.
Exactly. Like rain sounds nice, or like, man, this is
Yeah.
perfect to get work done because like you're not missing out. So
Yeah.
like I'm trying to say that out loud because it helps me and it's like feels good. And also coming back to a person who is sick only has one wish, and that's just like to be
Yeah.
better, feel better, be healthy, and like a healthy guy has hundreds of wishes. So that like always keep in mind just like be healthy and like trying to enjoy everything. So I really
Yeah,
appreciate that.
and it's similar to that. You can change your life in an instant the moment you make that decision. It's very similar to that idea is that whatever you focus on is exactly what your experience of life becomes. You start focusing on everything that is wrong with the world, right? Like, oh my gosh, there's wars, there's this thing, there's that thing, like, economy is crashing, like, or I'm hustling so hard in my business. Why is it not making through? Like, whatever it is you focus on is exactly what your experience of life will be like. And so you get to choose your focus. You
Yeah.
focus on the things that are amazing. That's how you'll feel every single day. And I do believe, like, I'm not a woo woo person. So, but my version of manifestation is channeling more energy in the direction of positive focus. Like, if you focus more on that, there's a momentum that builds up, and even psychologically, right? Like you start feeling like a winner, right? Like if I focus on, oh my gosh, like last week, like this crazy idea that turned into an opportunity that turned into something significant for my company came out of the blue. And now I'm focusing on that, like, wow, imagine what that could grow into, right? Like how many people I could help, all of those things. Suddenly you start to feel more confident, you start believing in it more. So now you start taking bigger, steps. And so
Yeah.
and before you know it, you've manifested this thing that you didn't think would happen. But it's not coming from saying some, voodoo prayers or something. It's coming from just moving in the direction of momentum. And to move in the direction of momentum, you have to be intentional about where you focus. And the more you focus on the positive things and the blessings you already have, there's something that happens to like how our brain kind of fixates on that and lights up.
That's I really, really can resonate with this because, for example, Mark and I have a rule: we don't watch any news because news normally tend to be very negative. So it's just like you only see, oh, the world is going to shit because it's like negative news sell, right? They sell, they get
Panic.
more publicity. You never hear like, oh, somebody saved this and this. So it's like something that I can't have an impact on. And I just like
Yeah.
it doesn't have an impact on me personally, and I can't change it. So why should I focus on this? So I really agree with you. Yes, focus on the positive things, like my current life, my tribe, so my friends, family, as well as my business, because I can have an impact on this one. And if I positively think about this one, it just helps way more than thinking about some other scenario that I don't have an impact on.
Nikki,
Yeah.
have you ever heard of this? I think it's a Native American proverb. Everyone has two wolves living in them. One is the positive, one is the negative. The one that you feed is the one that's going to win.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that you said earlier. It's I think like for me, like 100% true. What you focus on, what you ever you feed or focus
Yeah.
is the one that's going to win. And it's like that's why the positivity that you're saying
Yeah.
is so
But
true.
here's something else that also happens as a result of where you focus. Eventually, the thing you keep obsessively focusing on starts to become your identity, right? If you feel like you're a victim of circumstance, the world
Yeah.
treated you wrong, all these things, bad things happen to you, you're stuck, you have like, there's no way for you to come out of that. Being a victim becomes your identity. And then you start
Yeah.
to feed off of that. You start behaving congruent to that identity. And then you're really stuck, right? Even if there was a possibility you can't see anything, because that identity, there's nothing more powerful than, as human beings, our desire to stay congruent with the identity that we have. And so that gets so locked in that it becomes that. All of that just starts from what you choose to focus on. And like now, I run an AI transformation company. AI is in the news every damn day, and most of it tends to be negative, right? Jobs getting cut, stock prices falling, the robots are going to take over all of this stuff, right? We're becoming worthless as, professional workers and all of that stuff. You can focus on that and shrink and get even more freaked out about what the hell do I do? Like all of that stuff. Or you can shift your focus to say, wow, for the first time in modern human history, we now have the power of infinite intelligence at our disposal to solve humanity's greatest challenges. And when you amplify what makes us uniquely human and you take our creativity and our wisdom and our judgment and taste and trust and all of those things, and you leverage agentic scale, think about what's possible. To me, that's when people become people squared, right? Like we are becoming exponentially more capable. That's never been possible before. How might I leverage that? What are the problems I'm super passionate about solving that now I can do because I have AI as my coworker? The moment you change your frame, a whole new world opens up. And then you only see possibilities and opportunities. And, or you can choose to focus on the negative, and then you're basically becoming irrelevant every day that goes by.
Yeah, and you feel horrible because you're giving the inner locus of control to an outside locus of control, and
Yeah,
you're like, yeah, you're the victim,
exactly right.
victim mentality. That's
I
like
don't
a
like in general. I don't like when people are saying, "Oh, I'm a victim of this." It's like, no. You always have two choices. Things are happening to me, or I let things happen. So just like it's always in your control. Because like, okay,
Yeah.
this is happening. What can I do to change the situation?
I'm a survivor, not a victim.
Exactly. I personally, because like in the end, then I have control of it. Because otherwise,
Yeah.
it's like that's why also people feel then helpless, right? And then they go into the
Yeah.
spiral downwards because they think, oh, things are happening to me.
Nikki, I have
Yeah,
two
I mean
things. I think
that's a
we're
topic I've gotten into a lot of trouble with because I'm very outspoken about that. I could not be more anti-victim mentality. And
Same.
and as someone who's completely self-made, I'm like, I'm not spouting an opinion. I'm speaking through lived experience. I had nothing when I came to America, built up my career, built up my businesses, had no, daddy's money or like, special privilege or even special talents. I'm very ordinary when it comes to talent, IQ, any of that stuff. But I've had extraordinary results and built an extraordinary life. And if I can do it, I do believe it's possible for anyone. Now, does that mean there's no structural inequalities? Does it mean there's no bias? Of course there is. But you get to choose how you navigate through them, around them, above them, below them. Like, you figure out how to navigate through that and how you respond to circumstance. But I don't believe it's true that, like, you have to be stuck in a system of oppression and there's no choice outside of that. I just don't believe in it. And for me, that, like, life is happening for me, good or bad, it's happening for me because everything is catalyzing the next version of me. And the next version is always going to be bigger, bolder, better, stronger, faster than the previous version.
Sometimes I think that this system of oppression is being held alive for people who say that they're being oppressed. It's like a framework that if I
Yeah.
keep saying it, it will happen. Like they're manifesting in the negative way.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is one of these things. I agree with
It gets
you.
me riled up talking
Yeah,
about
exactly. I'm like, I don't want to hear the complainers.
No, please. Because it's always the
Yeah.
thing, right? For example, maybe going in your own startup, right? You had your plan, you wanted to acquire in the first month, let's say a B2B, 10 clients, but you're still struggling with the first one. You have two options. You're like, oh, everything is crap. Or you can say, oh, I learned already 5 ways how it's not working, right? So it's like all like how you look at things. And I really, really think that's more important because in the end, yeah, that just for me,
Nikki, actually, I have a few paths that we have in a crossroad. I think I want to ask so many things, and Lucas as well. And we have only limited time, and you as well. So that's why I'm asking: should we go down the one road where we go a little bit more in the AI space, or more we stay where we are in that kind of road, and also more in what you wrote, like you have your book and all these things because you've spitting out a lot of wisdom here, and it's super. I love this conversation. But which road would you rather take in? Because we have only limited time. So which one are we gonna go?
Well, I think we should combine the two because the challenges of
let's
the
do it.
Ooh.
the
Let's
challenges
do it.
of the past are actually becoming more complex at the speed and scale at which AI is changing our world. Um, and I don't mean the technology part. I'm talking about the human side of AI's impact in the world and what it does to our psychology, what it does to our identity, what it demands of us in terms of our, self-evolution and growth at a speed and scale that is biologically unnatural to human beings. And that's the defining characteristic to me when I look at the, years ahead.
How
Yeah.
okay, so for example, especially with AI in the last let's say 3 years, everything accelerated compared to like back in the day when the internet came out, everything was like slower rolling out. How do you think the humans can adapt, especially when all the negative people saying like, okay, they will take all our jobs, now we will be without purpose. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, you can't adapt and learn and become something new until you shed what used to be. Like, the unlearning and the letting go is a much bigger first step. And that's the part that I've found people have the hardest time with. And it's all because of identity, right? Because we build our identities based on, the successes we've had, that, the titles we hold, the power and status we have. All of those things start to shape our identity. You look at an executive at a big company, right? Like, let's say someone who's a C-suite executive in a big company. They got to a certain place of seniority and status and power after 25 plus years of hustling to climb the ladder, right? And you tell that person, well, now you need to have a day one rookie mindset because AI could do your job. And unless you learn and reinvent yourself, you are irrelevant. That person's not just going to say, okay, sure, let me get rid of my playbook and give up all of that and just become someone new. First, they have to unlearn the very things that got them there. And that's what feels most threatening. And at its core, when we think about how modern civilization evolved, from the caveman era, it was still a continuation of the same things that we are wired for genetically, which is seeking comfort and safety and security and certainty. That's what ensured that our species survived and we didn't get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, right? Like, but if you are still stuck in that state of like wanting safety, certainty, security. Guess what? You think that's going to work in the AI world? Not at all. It's the exact opposite of what you need. You need to be okay with uncertainty. You need to take risks instead of being safe. You need to embrace pain instead of comfort. When you do that, that's what gives you disproportionate advantage. But that means you have to literally like go against your biology, right? And you have to let go of all of that. Those are things that hit very deep. This is not about AI training and learning, prompt engineering. The real issues are deeply human. And that's the
How
part of the transformation that is like the biggest struggle that's not happening.
And how would you recommend them how to teach them to unlearn? Because it's like something very, very hard. But like, do you have any tips? So, for example, yeah.
Well, that's literally what FlipWork does. That's what my company does. I mean, we work with large organizations and help their employees like reinvent themselves, how they think, how they work, how they lead, rewire their mindset, change how they actually do step-by-step process of their workflows and tools, and really help them kind of let go of the old playbook and build a new playbook, right? And now we're actually introducing that even to individuals, not just to companies, because we started getting so much demand for individuals to say, okay, my company is not working with you, but I really need this help. How do I do that? And for the first time, we're introducing that now. And we just started to see so much need for it because there's no dearth of AI training and tools and free content out there. Like you could just Google that and you'll find a million ways to like master AI. But mastering AI is not the same as mastering yourself in the AI age. And that's what we are focused on, which is why it's called flip work of like, flipping is the unlearning and letting go and the new way. But one thing overall, like even outside of the AI thing, like if I think of one through line that goes across success through the ages, and when I say success, I don't just mean business success or financial success, just being a successful human being, right? Who's lived life well and who's contributed and made a difference and left a mark. Whether that was for the centuries before us or the centuries ahead, if there's one through line that I truly believe in, comfort is the enemy. You have to embrace pain. And whether that's the physical pain of sticking to something, even the boredom of dealing with the same, doing the same damn thing over and over again every day, or the psychological pain of growth and risk taking and loss and failure and all of that. Make pain your friend and you'll be liberated to become the best version of yourself. I feel like we spend too much of our time seeking comfort. And to me, victimhood comes out of that, right? It's comfort. It's like, I don't want to take the effort of, you know, breaking through. So I'm going to stay comfortable in my cocoon of this identity. But all growth and success emerges from pain. Um, there is no shortcut, absolutely no shortcut to it. But the moment you stop thinking of it as painful, like you actually see it as a portal into this incredible next version, right? Then it's just like you just rewire your connection to the idea of pain, and it frees you, because then it's not something you're resisting and avoiding. You're you're chasing it. And that's one of the things I write about in my book too, is like life is like this video game where we're all at a certain level with a certain set of skills and strategies and confidence, and we fall and we fail and we keep going through pain. And when you eventually get past that, and that's when you get to level 2. But at level 2, your problems just get bigger, which means you have to endure more pain and more struggle. And so at its core, whether it's pre-AI era or now in the AI era, it's all the same thing: is embrace pain, stop avoiding it, and incredible things will happen.
Have you ever had, because you've been talking a lot about unshedding and evolving and getting better, that someone was holding you back? Because at personal experience as well, if you have to evolve, you have yourself, and people also want you to be someone. They know you as someone and they're comfortable with that someone, but you're changing. So let's say you woke up that one day, when you said, I want to change my life. I'm sure there
Mhm.
were some friends that wanted you to have be a certain way. Can you give some advice on that and maybe give a personal story about that? That would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very high agency individual, so like for me, you know, all I hold myself 100% accountable for whatever is happening in my life, good or bad. Like it's all on me. Doesn't mean other people haven't done bad things or like, hurt me, but my response is still 100% my accountability and what I choose to do from there. So, and because I've reinvented myself intentionally so many times, when you come from that place of 100% accountability, you also realize that yes, there are going to be haters. There are going to be people that will feel like you abandoned them because you're turning into like this, moving in a new direction that's different from theirs. Relationships get frayed, friendships become irrelevant, like you lose that connection. But when your why is very clear, you move in the direction of your vision instead of holding on to that past. And I have intentionally, you know, broken away from certain friendships and relationships that I felt were not representing my future. And yet I'm a very loyal person. The irony is I'm an extremely loyal friend, but loyalty does not mean I'm stuck to a situation where they're not growing. They don't have the same values as the next version of me, right? That my closest friendships, like, I've been friends with the same people since we were 3 years old. They're still my best friends. But the reason it works is we've continued to grow at the same rate, even if it's different directions, but our hunger and curiosity, those are the values that brought us together as 3-year olds. And now we're still, after all these years, still close. But it's not because we live in completely different continents, different time zone, different lifestyles, different careers, but our connection has remained because our values were the same. And when that has been true, my friendships and relationships have survived. When that has not been true, I've not tried to hold on to it. And I guess one of my superpowers, or maybe a gift, is that I really don't care what people think.
So
So
important.
yeah. So that has been a blessing. It's not true for a lot of people struggle with that because the need for external validation and acceptance and belonging is so high. For me, somehow that's been one of my greatest gifts is I really don't give a shit. So, so,
Never, or did you reinvent that person who never gave a shit?
I think it became stronger and more pronounced. I think it was probably already there. I'm an only child. Grew up with a very strong, opinionated mother who broke the rules of society. So I had an example that of someone I
Okay.
admired that I looked up to. But also like just generally being kind of an introvert. Like I was building my own world and like I didn't
Yeah.
need social approval the same way as a lot of people that tend to do that, and I just never realized how much of a gift it was until kinda interacting with other people that I would see like, "Wow, you could do all these things," and their only reaction was, "But if I do take that step, what will people say?" I'm so afraid of, like, their judgment and the criticism or the rejection, and so they would stay stuck in this box, and I just couldn't get my head around it. I was like, "I don't even understand." But I realize how strong the need for acceptance is in certain people, the need to be liked. It's also helped me in business. Making tough decisions comes easy to me because I'm not worried about, you know, I think it's always important to be kind and, to be thoughtful and caring. But that's not the same as doing the right thing, no matter how tough it is for yourself personally and professionally.
I think this is crazy how that connects back to what you said that over the last 10,000 years, humans have been the same. And these people are like that because they're like, look, if I am being ostracized, I'll die outside the group. So they're
Well, it's
so
tribal
paranoid
behavior,
about it.
right? It's
Yeah.
we're safer in tribes, and so you can't afford to break the rules of the tribe or be ostracized and rejected from the tribe. So you will remain the same, right? We all default to the median. We become average because average is what creates belonging. But if you want to break through that to become extraordinary, part of step one is leaving the tribe.
Yeah. It's all, I mean, it's also the hardest part because people want to belong to it, and then it's like the lonely chapter where like you're not good enough to reach to a certain friend group, or for example, in business, people who already succeeded, while all your friends, for example, when you start a company, you just quit your job and now you're friends who you thought would be normal friends because you're spending all day with them in the normal job that you had before, and now all of a sudden you don't work there anymore. You don't see them that often. At the same time,
Yeah.
they have the weekends, want to go party, but you're building your own company, so you rather spend the time working because you want to push forward. They don't understand this. Believe that you changed, and that you're like, why are you spending so much time working on the ideas, which makes it like hard to maintain these friendships because at the same time they don't understand that you're working on your future. And then in the meantime, the people who already succeeded, you're not there yet to be like friends with them.
But
So I
what you're
find it's like very,
describing is that in between period of loneliness and
yeah,
isolation where you've outgrown friends from your past life and you haven't earned the right to be in the circle of your future life. Well, that in between period represents pain. Well, make friends with
yeah,
your pain. That's why like all of it goes back to if you just embrace pain. So what? Maybe it's a few months, a year, 2 years that you're incredibly isolated while you're building in the dark, hoping to become this, chasing your dream and doing all of that hustle. And it's painful and isolating. Suck it up. Once you get to the other side, you get access into the very rooms you dreamed about being. And I can say this from personal experience because I've been through that so many times, right? Like, when I left India, I lost all of my friends that were back home that I grew up with. I was 21 years old coming to America, and I had like no one here because I was not American. And so I couldn't relate to them because I was too much of an immigrant, fresh off the boat kid with like unfashionable clothes and, like not connected to this world. And so, yeah, that in between period, almost like a 2-year period, was kind of painful. And eventually it worked, and I found the right people for my future. And each of those transition periods have been filled with isolation and struggle. But the one thing I've found is when you stay authentic to who you are and who you want to be, you stay true and like fully aligned to your future vision, uncompromising and committed fully, you will find an entirely new tribe emerge that you never expected. Those misfits and mavericks are exactly you. And they would have never found you and you would have never found them if you weren't fully you. And that's the beauty of it. And I feel so lucky today that like, yes, I've, moved on and outgrown a lot of circles that I was part of over the last several years. But the more I've become who I am and who I want to be, the more I've been surrounded by, the exact people. Like that's my real tribe. They're crazy. They're the inventors, and the pioneers, and the risk takers, and the entrepreneurs, and the creators, and all of that. That's my tribe. But we would have never found each other. It's like being X-Men. You can't see each other's superpower until you show up, reveal your own. And so you just have to be that.
Agree. I mean, honestly, these are amazing words to live by, and I think this could be also then a good end to the podcast. Like this is already got everyone
man.
on the right path now.
Nikki, I love the part, especially with the X-Men, especially with the superpower, because like people are always shy. They just like don't want to show their true colors. But the thing is, if you are authentic to yourself, first of all, you attract the right people, and the ones who don't like, they don't like you when you're being yourself. Well, they shouldn't be your friends anyways. So I completely
They're not
agree with this.
X-Men.
Exactly. They're not,
Find your
like,
tribe.
not everybody can be an X-Men, right? There needs to be
Yeah.
normal, average people. So 100% agree with that.
Yeah, that's why we wear always anime stuff, and we're like, yeah, we're nerds. We're proud of it.
100%. We're nerds. I mean, I was thinking of wearing a Naruto shirt, but I was like, all right, maybe not today.
Oh, you guys dressed up for me.
Nice T-shirt, plain,
Oh, boy, yeah.
Nikki, do you have any other closing advice or like maybe actionable steps that we can give our audience?
The one thing I always live by is dream big. Life is too short to play small, man. And the thing is, everything great starts with your dream, because if you can't even dream it, no way in hell you're going to do it. So the first step is just dream big. And then whatever your dream is, tear it up and dream even bigger. And then like challenge that and dream even bigger than that. Because when you keep pushing your dreams to the point where it feels absolutely impossible, that is something that like brings life energy out of you. And like that is what brings you to life. And once you can dream it, you'll find that the path just appears and like you start taking action in that direction. But if your dream is boring, like that's not enough motivation for any human being to aspire to anything. I think the worst thing we do to ourselves is we keep we don't even give ourselves permission to dream, let alone take action. Like just starting with give yourself permission to dream big.
Man, I just got goosebumps.
Yeah, I loved it
I
too.
love that. Nikki, where can people find you?
nikkibarua.com. And I would love to have people check out my weekly newsletter, Reinvention Roadmap, where I share all these actionable strategies and frameworks every week.
Nice.
Also love to connect on LinkedIn and check out FlipWork.ai if you're looking for a step-by-step approach to transforming.
And what was the name of the book again?
Beyond Barriers. So you can get that on Amazon.
Wow. Perfect.
We will link all of this in the description below of the podcast, 100%. Nikki, we really enjoyed this conversation. Honestly, I mean, appreciate it. Highly appreciate it. It was like amazing. I mean, I learned so much. I'm gonna like when I'm editing this, I'm like, oh my god, so much gold. No,
I really enjoyed it too. Thank you guys for inviting me.